Our next segment tonight is for candidates running for the U.S. Senate. Tonight we have Charlie Ayler. Charlie Ayler. I know as soon as I looked at it, I'm going to say it wrong. Jerry Eller, Tim Neville, and Lily Williams. Jerry is being represented by his campaign manager, John Allen. Tim is being represented by State Legislator Chris Holbert. Did I get all that correct of everybody who's who? There we go. So we'll go over quick rules as we have a little pause. You get 2 minutes for your opening comments, and then each question is 1 minute long. The green light goes on when I stop talking. The yellow light gives you 15 seconds to wrap up, and the red light means it's time to zip it. So we're going to go with that. We've got several topics to discuss tonight, but I'm going to let you get started with your introductory comments, and we're going to start, John, with you. You can start with your 2 minutes of introductory comments.
Okay, so I'm John Allen. I am Jerry Eller's campaign manager. Brief intro about myself. I served 12 years in the U.S. Army. I am much like Jerry. I'm a disabled Army veteran. Jerry started running when he was approached by a bunch of disabled veterans who were displeased with the way that veterans were being treated by the current senator. What Jerry stands for is improving health care for veterans. He stands for taking care of Common Core, which means basically getting rid of Common Core everything, as well as reducing the Department of Education. He also stands for not getting rid of the legalization of marijuana, because we are unfortunately stuck with it, but regulating it. Because right now it is going unregulated with the unregulation of it. Down in Pueblo County and El Paso County, unfortunately violent crime is on the increase due to the legalization of it. Also, Jerry stands for the reduction and eventually getting rid of the Obamacare, also known as the Affordable Health Care Act, and what he likes to call his Government Reduction Act, which would be the combination of a whole bunch of government agencies, thus taking care of a lot of bureaucracy going on in Washington, D.C. Jerry is not a lifetime politician, which means that he does not have a lifetime of lying to people. And that's my opening statement. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Next up, Charlie, you've got 2 minutes to share your opening comments with us.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Charlie Ayler. I'm a retired Air Force Master Sergeant, computer programmer, and systems engineer. And I'm running for the same reason that many of you are here. You're not happy with the federal government. As I have traveled all around this state, it has become more and more apparent to me that the federal government has no longer fulfilling its role in our society. It now has become predatory in many cases. It begins with the fact that the federal government is squatting right in the middle of our road to our prosperity, and without our prosperity, we really do not have liberty. Case in point, the federal regulatory agencies have increased the burdens upon business and even private citizens to the point where the intent apparently is to put people out of business. Then we have the federal tax code. It's so colossal that it's stupid. We have to simplify it, standardize it, and get it down to something that you can read. Then there's Obamacare. Obamacare has basically instituted the 29-hour work week, and the regulations that are associated with it are so large that it's making healthcare practically unaffordable for anybody that's actually working. We need to look at our trade agreements. Many of them are not actually trade agreements. They're encumbering alliances with other countries and causing us to lose our sovereignty. The latest one is actually the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I will oppose that as a U.S. Senator. We really need to get the federal government under control and out of our business, and that's the basis of my run for office. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Chris, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Chris Holbert. I'm one of the 35 state senators that serve in Denver in the Colorado State Senate. I'm here to tell you about my friend Tim Neville. And to get there, I need to tell you about my friend Mike Cobb. In 2011, Senator Cobb resigned his seat in the state Senate to take care of his wife. She was in her last months with a tough battle with cancer. That vacancy was going to be filled by a state representative who'd spent 7 years in the state legislature, and everybody said he would win it. Tim Neville raised his hand and said, "No, I think God's calling for my life is to stand for this vacancy and go to the state Senate and vote a principled voting record." People said he couldn't do it. The night of the vacancy election, Tim Neville became Senator Tim Neville. The Democrats immediately drew him out of his district. We had redistricting in 2011, that affected the 2012 elections. And they drew Tim out of his district by moving the line of that district just around his house. He was put into a district that includes Denver, Boulder, Jefferson, Gilpin, and Clear Creek counties. It was held by an incumbent. And the Democrats and the press said there's no way that Tim Neville would ever win that district. So he went home. And then in 2014, he ran for that district. And people said there's no way that Tim Neville can win this district. And he was reelected to the state Senate. Tim Neville is the only Republican who represents any part of Denver County and Boulder County. Tim Neville could win because he works hard and because he is genuine. Like me, Tim Neville believes that he and his wife and his sons are accountable for every word, thought, and action. Accountable to God, his Creator, and our Savior, Jesus Christ. That's who Tim Neville is. Tim and Barb are over in Weld County at the Women of Weld event, or he would be here with you tonight. But I'm very proud to stand here with my friend, Senator Tim Neville, because he will be our next U.S. Senator.
Thank you, Chris, for your time and for your comments. Our next 2 minutes will be held by Lily. Lily, please share your opening comments.
My name is Lily Tang Williams, Facebook page Lily for Liberty. I was born, grew up in Communist China under Mao's regime. I came over when I was about 24 years old, older than lots of you in high school today. I don't know how much you know about communism, about China. Where I was growing up, we were not allowed to do the hairstyle we wanted. We were not allowed to wear colorful clothes to show our female curves. We were not even allowed to date. Boys' love letters would be shared by teachers, delongs, the public, to say this boy is thinking about girls. Yeah, is that normal? You know, so that country I grew up, I even did not know until many years later. We had no freedom. We had no rights. We all had to comply to a collective society rules. We had to listen to party and Mao's indoctrination for years and years. I never heard of such concept like private property ownership. I never heard of privacy. I never heard of parents' rights. I never touched guns because we're not allowed to buy or own any guns. If something happened to your apartment at night, you were scared, you go grab kitchen knife. We were trained how to use kitchen knives and choppers to protect ourselves. I came to this country, I saw this country was a free country. Land of free, home the brave. My rights, my freedom will be guaranteed by the Constitution. But it's not the case. I woke up a few years ago from my 24 years indoctrination by my own native country government, and I could not recognize America, the free country I choose to come. I choose to be left alone by my government. I'm running for U.S. Senate because I'm thinking that I'm the best candidate to advocate for freedom, advocate for individual rights and liberty. So if you check me out, I hope that I can be that candidate for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. We'll rotate through the questions now. And our first one, Charlie, you're going to start with the first question. What is your highest priority regarding transportation issues in our area? For example, light rail, new roads, I-25, transportation issues.
Well, we are seriously remiss with our interstate system here in the state. I would like to see a second north-south route from at least Pueblo up to Cheyenne. I think we should also consider a secondary route for I-70 through the mountains. And certainly improve the number of lane miles that we have within the city. I think it's ridiculous that I now have to add at least 40 minutes to my drive anytime I want to go through Denver. So, as a U.S. Senator, I think the thing that I would do is release the Transportation Trust Fund of the state of Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chris, what's the highest priority regarding transportation?
It's important to understand that as a U.S. Senator, the ability to affect transportation funding in Colorado is rather limited. But there is one thing that could be done, and that is that the state and federal gas tax that we pay at the pump, we pay the federal share of that, and it goes to Washington, D.C., and then they send back less than 100 cents on a dollar. We pay into that system, and some other state or the federal government takes money out of every dollar that Colorado pays. One of the ways that we could solve that would be to allow the states to keep the revenue. Rather than sending it all to Washington, D.C. and having that bureaucracy decide how many of those cents we get back off of each dollar, let them stay in the state. And if we need to pay some net fee to the federal government for their share of the federal gas tax, then let us collect it, let us decide how that money would be spent at a local level with county commissioners and the state legislature. And I'm confident that Tim Neville would support that plan.
Thank you, Chris. Lily, what is your highest priority for transportation?
Well, let's go beyond transportation. What do you think about role of government? In my eyes, I came to this country, the role of federal government to protect life, liberty, and the property, and national defense. But now we got this bloated federal bureaucracy, and they will tax you to death, pay for lots of things government don't belong to. Transportation is one issue that we should talk about. How much tax dollars that the government will point gun at you to collect from you and from business, then turn to federal government, then decide how much the state's gonna get. It's like, I don't want to pay for something you force me to pay, then you're gonna give back to me and say it's good for you. How ironic that is. How big do you want our country's government to get so huge and so big? Libertarians believe dramatically cut size, scope of government, including lots of federal government agencies. As U.S. Senator, I will take a look at that seriously. That's where I differ from all other candidates.
Thank you, Lily. And finally, John, would you share your thoughts on the highest priority regarding transportation issues?
This is an issue that Jerry and I were talking about, and you can look it up on his website, Eller4Senate.com, and it goes off of something that he'd written up under his Federal Marijuana Utilization Act. The taxes that the state of Colorado is using for marijuana, he would work with the state senate to use those tax money not only to increase the roadways, the potholes that we all hit and mess up our front ends and tires. He'd also use that money in the taxes to work with the other senators and congressmen from the state too, as Charlie already mentioned, to make more roadways, to increase the amount of lanes, and as previously mentioned, fix the potholes. So I don't know about you up here, but down in El Paso County and Pueblo County, you hit some of those potholes and you might lose your car because they're that deep. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Chris. Chris, do you believe in term limits for congressional representatives and senators? Term limits?
Yes, I do, and I voted for them back in 1990. I don't know how many of the kids in the room had the opportunity to do that, but Colorado was one of the leaders in the nation in adopting term limits, and that applied to every elected official in the state, including our members of Congress. The U.S. Supreme Court a few years later struck that down because it created two classes of legislators. I believe that the only way to do that now would be through constitutional amendment. There are some people that support an Article 5 effort to do that, but amending the Constitution to create term limits would be the way we could apply that to all 435 members of the U.S. House and 100 U.S. senators. We have 8-year term limits in the Colorado legislature, and frankly, I think that that's probably not long enough because we have such dramatic turnover and no institutional memory, and it has empowered the lobby and it has empowered bureaucrats within our state government. So I think if we look at that on the national level, we should be thoughtful if we were to ever achieve term limits for Congress, as to what those term limits ought to be.
Thank you so much, Chris, for your thoughts on term limits. Lily, what are your thoughts on term limits?
Idealistically, if we have a very well-educated citizens in this country, we are very politically active, we can vote whoever we want to and get out whoever we want to. The problem today is that our government has been taken over by special interest lobbyists. Our citizens have become very unaware, inactive, relying on government. They don't know what's going on. So the longer politicians stay in the office, the longer that the lobbyists want to lobby them because they already have a relationship, they already know their weaknesses and strengths. So I do support term limits through Convention of States. If Congress is not going to do that, we have Constitution Article 5. We can call for Convention of States to put that in the Constitution. I pledge to you tonight, publicly, I make myself only serve 2 terms maximum. 12 years in Washington is long enough. I also refuse to be lobbyist when I leave Washington. That's my stand. I hope my other candidates will take the same pledge I do tonight.
Thank you so much. John, your thoughts?
Yes, Jerry's official opinion on this one is the longer you stay in Washington, as already been mentioned, the more you owe people. Special interests and lobbyists, they know how to get to you. They try to buy you, so he's for term limits. He's not for sale. He's not going to stay there that long. If he's elected, he is for term limits and he will not stay there. He does not have a price tag. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Charlie, finally, your thoughts on term limits?
Well, I am for a constitutional amendment to limit the terms of senators and congressmen. I'm even in favor of the same thing for Supreme Court justices. I'm open to the number of years or the formula for how it would be accomplished, but accomplish it I think we should do. If it cannot be done directly through Congress, then we should look at it through a convention of states. For myself, I've already said publicly on my website that I will only do 2 terms. If I don't accomplish what I needed to do in the Senate, then I will either retire to private life or I will move on to something that does require my attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Lily, you're the first one for this question. Benefits and downsides of the raising the minimum wage, and what are your thoughts on the minimum wage?
Well, libertarians believe property rights and free market entrepreneurship. What happens when government come in, dictate, you are a business owner, how much you must pay minimum wage in order to meet mandate? Do you think that's the American way? Plus, it's not compassionate to the people you're trying to help at the bottom level of struggling working poor class. You take away their chance to have first that entry-level job experience, to learn something, to move up, and to be promoted to some other jobs. And the teenagers like you guys who want to get 16 years old or up to get any kind of entry-level job, now they cannot afford to hire you. You're 15, 16-year-old flip hamburger, you're gonna make $15 an hour, I cannot afford it. So I think leave that alone. If we have a flourish, prosperous economy, everybody will move up eventually, but it is also your choice. How do you better yourself as an individual citizen to get a better job, improve your family quality of life? So get government out of this.
Thank you, Lily. John, your thoughts on minimum wage?
Unfortunately, there's no right, there's no wrong answer to this question. If you raise the minimum wage and you're giving the real estate landlords permission to raise their prices, you're giving closings such as Walmart, JCPenney's permission to raise their rates, it's inflation at its worst. Basically, the whole point of a minimum wage job is to teach young adults the meaning of a hard-earned dollar. If you're trying to make it rich, honestly, the best way to do it is to go to college, get your degree, and work your way up through the job market. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie, what are your thoughts on the minimum wage?
Every time we raise the minimum wage, the number of jobs that are available disappears. That's a fact. And they never recover. If you really want to improve your earning potential, you have to improve yourself. But it's more than that. We have to control our borders because lots of businesses want the cheapest wages they can possibly get, and the people that come here illegally are willing to provide that. So I want to control the borders, and I want to leave the wage as it is to teach people the value of a dollar and to give them the opportunity to improve their skill set so that they can move up in the job market. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. And our final answer on the minimum wage. Chris, what are your thoughts?
Thank you. I think especially for the kids in the audience, if you are looking for a starting job, if you want to get an opportunity to have a job and earn some income, you need to understand that raising the minimum wage creates fewer of those opportunities. If an employer is able to pay $5 or $7 or $10 an hour for you to come and enjoy your first opportunity to work, like my now 16-year-old son does every Saturday and Sunday, he goes and he's a greeter at a breakfast restaurant in Douglas County. And he makes, at first he didn't even know how much he was making. But that opportunity is much less than $15 an hour. If his employer were to pay $15 an hour, there would be half or a third the number of opportunities in that business for people like my son. There is no magic money tree. And if we raise that minimum wage, it hurts kids. It hurts youth.
Thank you so much for your thoughts on minimum wage, everyone. John, you're first on this question. What is your first action as a U.S. Senator?
Mr. Eller's first action as a U.S. Senator, we've talked long and hard about this one, is Government Reduction Act. There is too much bureaucracy going on in D.C., too much waste with your taxpayer money. There's a lot of government agencies that are a waste of money, one being the Department of Homeland Security. No one really knows what they do. No one agrees with what they do. What his plan would be to reduce a lot of these bureaucracies and hold them accountable for their spending. And you can read all about that on his website. Again, Eller, 4, Senate.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Charlie, what are your thoughts on the first action as a U.S. Senator?
Well, the first action of a U.S. Senator is to learn the job. That may sound ridiculous, but that's exactly what it is. What you would have to do, what I would have to do, is I would have to figure out who agrees with me on most points of bills, and then work with them in order to get the bills that we want passed, and work against the bills that we know have problems in them, so that they don't visit some sort of disaster on our constituents. Once I have built the influence that's necessary, then I'll begin working on the bills that need to be done, particularly abolishing these federal regulatory agencies, reorganizing them so that they do comport with the Constitution, and slashing their budgets. These things are all worthy to be talked about, but that's not something a first session senator will ever accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, what is your thoughts on the first action as a U.S. Senator?
Well, I look forward to seeing my friend Tim Neville introduce a bill to get the federal government out of K-12 education. The problem that we have is that we have become so dependent as a state on federal funding. And every time the federal government steps in and offers to provide money so long as our school districts comply, we lose control. Colorado is one of 6 states that identifies local control of K-12 education in our state constitution. It is not a topic that we just talk about. It's not a buzzword. It is in our constitution. And it's something that we need to take responsibly here in Colorado. Common Core has been mentioned, but that is not the extent of the federal government's intrusion in public education. Senator Neville is a principled leader on this issue. And I believe that the first action for him would be to introduce a bill to get the federal government out of our public schools.
Thank you, Chris. And finally, Lily, what are your thoughts as the first action as a U.S. Senator?
My first bill, if I could sponsor, will be defund Department of Education. I have a YouTube video called The Common Core is the communist core I had in China. Federalized, centralized education, one size fits all, data traction, data mining, and taking away our teachers' professional autonomy and enjoying learning by all our kids. It's not constitutional. It's intruding to local control and parental control. For every dollar we got from federal Department of Education, you spend more than that to comply with its mandates. All my manpower, all the equipment you have to buy, all the testing you have to purchase. It's just not effective, and it's against my philosophy to believe that the children belong to their parents. And local control is a lot better even than state control, and a lot better than federal control. So that's my number one priority. I have made a promise. I will defund Department of Education.
Thank you, Lily. Again, as this is hosted by a young adult, we're going to ask that question. Why is it important for young people to be involved in politics, and how will you support that as a senator for Colorado? Let's start with Chris.
Well, when Wayne Allard, who lives up in this part of Colorado, was in the U.S. Senate, one of the things that he did annually was host the Allard Capital Conference. And he invited applications from Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated, libertarians, people from all over the state of Colorado. As a U.S. Senator, you're one of two in each state. And Wayne Allard set a great example of bringing people of all political persuasions and all ages to Washington, D.C. to meet a broad spectrum of people from the legislative, executive, and judicial branch, representing both major parties. And that was enlightening because we got to learn from people there in Washington, D.C., but we also got to meet each other. And I believe that my friend Senator Tim Neville would serve us well by reinventing, revitalizing, bringing back what was the Allard Capital Conference and bringing people like you to Washington, D.C. to really understand the workings of the federal government.
Thank you, Chris. Lily, as a U.S. Senator, what will you do to encourage youth involvement in politics?
I'm already doing that by running for U.S. Senate. I'm the first Chinese immigrant coming out to run for this high-level office. And I want to inspire young people to care about your freedom, care about your liberty, care about your country now before it's too late. What happened to me in China could happen to you in this country. Do not believe me, just read more history and look at what the communist country did to lots of people. And everybody in this room, including young people, baby today, you have over $80,000 national debt on your head. And you have NSA tracking, monitor your emails and Facebook postings. You are losing your privacy to big unlimited government. So you got to get involved now. And I'm trying to use this opportunity to also educate you about libertarianism, which is you are allowed to live your life any way you see fit without government interference. If you do not violate other people's rights or steal their stuff, so you all should become libertarians and check us out, lp.org.
Thank you, Lily. John, thoughts on encouraging students?
I can give you two examples. One for Jerry. When he was a senior in high school, he said he was the senior class president, and now he's running for senator. And not many years ago, when I was a senior in high school, I helped my dad run when he was running for board of supervisors. It was his y'all's equivalent of town council, and now I'm a campaign manager. Aim high, aim big. You can accomplish it all. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And Charlie, your thoughts as a U.S. Senator for Colorado, how are you going to encourage our Colorado youth to be involved in politics?
Well, the first thing that I have to say is I need to get in front of as many students as I can when I'm not in session. I feel that's probably more important than anything else I would do. Just as importantly, I want to impress upon students that waiting every day that you wait is another day that you delay your destiny. That's especially true with your government. If you are not involved, your government is slipping away from you. I cannot say that often enough or emphasize that often enough. So, it's upon you, it's your responsibility, it's your country, and it's your government. Are you going to do something, or are you going to wait? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlie. As we wrap up tonight, you each have a minute for your closing comments and to share any thoughts that you have with our audience and with the students here or with the adults. And we're going to start with Lily. You've got 1 minute for your closing comments.
I came to this country with $100 in my pocket, without speaking English, $1,200 in debt owed to my professor who sponsored me to come to this country. I had a big dream, American dream. If I work hard, save money, invest wisely, I will live very comfortable life. I will be left alone by my government. That's what I wanted. But now it's not the case. I feel threatened. I'm losing my freedom. My children will not have the same opportunity to achieve their American dream. They will never even be able to start their own business because of heavy regulations on their heads every day. And you are losing your privacy. Your government is watching you. And what you do with your body, what you put in your body to smoke something, it's government business. You will go to jail for it. So I'm asking you, this is still a free country. You have the opportunity here to make a difference. And if you vote, check out the Libertarian, my candidacy, lilyforliberty.com. I hope that you will vote for me. Lily for Liberty, not for sale.
Thank you, Lily. And John, can you share some final thoughts regarding Jerry?
Sure can. Again, Jerry regrets that he couldn't be here tonight. And feel free to check out his website. I'll say it one more time. It's Eller4Senate.com. Just some final words. There are a lot of people running on the Republican side for the U.S. Senate race. A lot of qualified people. What we feel separates Jerry from the rest of them is he is not a career politician. So again, he has not made a career out of lying to people. He is a good-hearted man. He does have honor, integrity. He still carries the military and the Army values. There are, again, a lot to choose from. It doesn't matter who you vote for, just go out there and vote. You young people, that is the one thing I want you to carry with you tonight. It doesn't matter who you vote for, go out there, make your voice be heard, and vote. Thank you guys for the invite and have a great night.
Thank you so much. Charlie, will you share your closing thoughts with us tonight?
Yes, thank you for inviting me tonight, and it was a pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank Mackenzie Hill for putting this on. It was a big job, and she's done a great one at it. I'd like to additionally thank John. I'm standing next to a bona fide hero. He has 2 Bronze Stars for Valor and 5 Purple Hearts, so give him a hand. His friend in the back there, I can't think of his name, damn it. Woody is another hero. By all means, ask him what he's done in his service. You'll be surprised. As for myself, we have to get our federal government under control. It begins with getting our prosperity back so that we can pay for this behemoth that thinks it's a Cadillac and we're only giving enough money to be a Yugo. Then, once that happens, we can begin paying down the debt and work on the things that we need to do, like securing our borders and upgrading our military. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chris, your final thoughts.
I ask you to please support my friend Tim Neville for U.S. Senate. When I was 19 years old, I had the first chance to vote in an election. The president was offering more money at lower interest rates for student loans. His name was Jimmy Carter. My mom sat me down and explained that Jimmy Carter was trying to bribe me with her money, or my money. Government doesn't have money other than what it takes from someone else. Tim Neville understands that. My mother taught me a valuable lesson at 19, and I voted for Ronald Wilson Reagan. If you want to find that bright, shining city on the hill, if you want government out of your life and out out of K through 12 education. If you want to stop paying more into that machine of Washington, D.C., please support my friend, Tim Neville. He's a proven conservative. He's accountable to you. I'm asking you, please find him on Facebook, find his website, and vote for Tim Neville. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have a large round of applause for our Senate candidates tonight and their surrogates for being here with us? Thank you. I'd like to turn the microphone back over to Mackenzie as we wrap up tonight, and just I'm going to get weepy. I do that. We're really proud of our kids. We spend 4 years with these guys, and they work hard. Mackenzie has worked so hard, and we have 30 seniors doing projects like this. And do we have any seniors here? Will you guys stand up if you're in SCLA and stand up and get a round of applause for the work you're doing? Thank you. Thank you for making a difference. We're proud to be a part of the St. Vrain Valley and for a school district that supports education and supports creative education and supports programs like ours, our leadership program, to give kids opportunities to put what they're learning in the classroom to work. So Mackenzie, thank you. You are awesome. And a big round of applause for Mackenzie as she wraps up tonight.
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and for sticking around for a few more minutes than you probably intended to. And I want to thank you all for supporting my capstone, the Leadership Academy, and coming out to see all of the great candidates we have here tonight. If you do have a few extra minutes to stick around, we have representatives from the League of Women Voters and a few other local political organizations outside, as well as some refreshments, which it looks like a few of you have found. So thank you for coming out tonight, and good night.